Fred Stevens, and in this podcast we're going to explain how change management and project management relate to each other. There are several different ways to do this. We're going to pick a real simple model just so you can see it. If you want to see this slides that go along with this talk, go to westbrookstevens.com/management, the number one, .htm. So let's try it again. westbrookstevens.com/project_management, the number one, .htm. Now, when you get to that website, you will scroll down the page and find figure PM1 titled 4 Phases of Project Management and the 3 Phases of Change. Now, if you look at the picture, you'll see a triangle top with the 3 constraints of project management. Now, the 3 constraints are cost, time, and requirements. There are several different versions of this, and I'm going to explain this one to you. Cost is how much it costs to complete the project. Time is how much time we estimate it will cost to complete the project. Requirements is what we're trying to do. So if you think of it this way, we've written a contract with somebody to provide them a certain product at a certain cost for a certain amount of time. If we wanted to think about maybe building a house, we agreed on the price of the house, we agreed on how much time it would take to build the house, and we also agreed on how many rooms in the house, what the house would look like, the floor of the house, the brick of the house, all the things that we require in the house we want. Now, in the center of this triangle, there's resources and systems. So if you think about project management, we're using resources, which could be people, could be places, it could be all kinds of things, could be materials, resources, and systems, and that's what it takes to build it. If we're thinking about maybe computer systems, or we could think about maybe the financial systems, the marketing systems, the cost accounting systems. So we're going to use those resources and those systems, and we're going to agree on a certain cost for a certain time and certain requirements. Now, that's the 3 constraints of project management, and it's directly related to implementing a change. Whenever we talk about change, the implementation tool, the primary implementation tool, is project management. So if you look at the dip below that triangle, you can see it starts off fairly low, it dips down fairly deep, and comes up fairly high. Now, that's a representation, a symbol of what change looks like. Now, you might have heard this change curve called the Valley of Despair. Well, that's an oversimplification of what that change curve is all about. And when you hear the words Valley of Despair, it usually takes into consideration how hard it is for people to make a change, and how hard it is as a change agent to bring people through a change. Well, even if the people really desire that change, even if this change is longed for and looked forward to by the people in the organization, and there is no despair, you'll still have the dip, because that dip not only represents slowdown in productivity, which could happen from the Valley of Despair, people being depressed by despair, despairing the change, but it also happens related to just the processes of risk and managing the risk. And sometimes this is called a J-curve, where the J-curve maybe represents return on investment. You sink money into it before you find a return on your investment. It could also represent just the learning curve. I mean, even if you bought the best piece of hardware and computer system you ever wanted, you still have to learn how to use it. So you're excited about it, you love it, there's no despair at all, but you still have to learn how to use it. And that dip could represent several other things. Now, change comes in 3 phases. There's the point that's there before you ever change. That's before the change happens. That's phase 1. And then you're actually going through the change. That's during the change. And then there's after the change happened, when you're actually preparing. If you're moving, for example, you have the point before you start moving where you're actually found the house you want. You packed up all your stuff. And now, during the move, you're actually moving your stuff across country, and after the move, you're unpacking. So you can see maybe how that dip takes place. This same dip happens whether we're building houses, whether we're remodeling apartment buildings, whether we're hiring people, whether we're buying software. So now, change management, if you think of that dip, the project management implements that change. And so there's actually many different ways to look at the life cycles or the phases of project management. And I'm going to simplify those down to just 4 phases. And then we'll look at the beginning phase where you actually conceptualize what you're trying to do. So if we're trying to build a house, we're actually trying to figure out what kind of house we want. So we may get architects involved. Before the architects get involved, maybe we've looked through magazines. So we're trying to come up with an idea, a picture of what we want. Now, at the point we bring architects in, we're actually starting to go over into the planning phase. And by the time we bring the contractors in, and by the way, the best way to do that is bring them in together, because the architects and the contractors will keep each other grounded. The architects will have a vision of what they want, and the people who plan it, or the people who have to build it, will keep them down to earth. Keep art with function. So the architect will actually help in the conceptual design and in the planning, leads over into the planning, and the contractors will do some planning, and they'll actually implement the change or build the house. Or if it was software, you may have the business owner conceptualize what they want with a person selling the software or selling the solution. They'll plan it in a conceptual way, and then the project manager and the team will go in and plan it in a practical way with all the steps and all the timing and all the costs associated with that. And then the next step after that would be implementation or execution, or just doing it, actually building it. So they'll build it, and then at the point that they have it built, they actually have to transition it. They have to give it to the customer, and the customer actually has to understand it and maybe get trained in it. Well, there's also, if you look at the house, then what the transitional phase would be, we're taking you into the house. We're reviewing it. We're doing the last checks on everything. We're putting together a punch list on those things that we still need to fix that you noticed, and you're making this list, and then and you're going out and fixing that list, and pretty soon the house is all your responsibility. Well, that transitional phase is the last phase of project management. So let's go over that again. 3 phases of change: before, during, and after. Conceptual design part of the project management part will start in the before. The planning will overlap between before and during the change, and then the doing, the implementation, is all in the doing, all in the during of change, and then the transition comes at the point it's after the change has taken place. There's a transitional period, and that is how project management and change management relates together. And I hope you enjoyed that. My name is Craig A. Stevens. You can catch me, you can email me at craigastevens@westbrookstevens.com.